What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to cover the Bodyguard today for Throwback Thursday. Yesterday would have been Whitney Elizabeth Houston's 60th birthday, and she was gone far too soon. She was this beautiful, charismatic, just gorgeous powerhouse. I mean, shout out to her mom, Cissy Houston, who was Aretha Franklin's backup singer. And excuse me, she was related to Dionne Warwick as well. So music was just all in her blood, all throughout her house. But out of everyone, Whitney Houston was my favorite singer as a kid, and she still is. I mean, I've never heard anybody come close. Maybe Mariah, I think, is my second favorite. But Whitney Houston, she has a soulfulness. Mariah Carey, her mom was an opera singer, so she has the whistle registry. But shout out to Mariah, I love her. But Whitney Houston, I mean, just her soulful, just velvety voice. Clive Davis, he said that she was the voice of her generation. And I miss her every day. And so this Throwback Thursday is in honor of Whitney Elizabeth Houston. Rest in peace, Nippy. We miss you. Happy heavenly birthday. Okay, so the Bodyguard, right? Initially, Whitney said that she did not want to play a singer. um, this was her first movie, but it shot her to superstardom. Okay, of course, Whitney was already a star, and she was like more pop, the pop princess with hits like How Will I Know, and um, she was known for being like a tall Barbie doll pop just singer, right? Child, after the Bodyguard came out, okay, she became a songstress. Okay. The Bodyguard is still to this day, okay, August 2023, the highest grossing soundtrack, the best-selling soundtrack of all time. And so I'm saying, like, obviously I'm not the only person who's Whitney, who's a huge fan of Whitney. Everyone is. But Whitney Houston was just that girl. Like, she blew the house down. Matter of fact, her song, of course, as everyone knows, the signature ballad of I Will Always Love You, was written by Dolly Parton. I love her as well. Shout out to Dolly Parton. Dolly said when she first heard Whitney sing her song, she didn't even recognize it at first. And when she did recognize that was her song, she said she had to pull over to the side of the road, child. She got chills, okay? Because Whitney sang down, okay? Still, to this day, best-selling soundtrack of all time. So she played Rachel Marron, okay, who was an Academy Award nominated actress and musical superstar who was being sent threats by someone who was not well. Okay, he was basically a stalker. And after a bomb explodes in her dressing room, her manager, Bill, seeks out a professional bodyguard named Frank Farmer, who was played by Kevin Costner. He was a former Secret Service agent who served President Reagan, President Carter, their details. So he comes to protect her. And he feels like Rachel is just this spoiled diva who's oblivious to the threats against her life. So Rachel then in turn accuses Frank of being paranoid, and she complains about his, excessive protection measures. She feels like he's really intrusive. However, that infamous, enemies to lovers trope, Frank and Rachel grow closer when he rescues her from danger after a riot erupts at one of her concerts, Queen of the Night, which is one of my favorite songs. And I remember, just a side note, dancing to the soundtrack that, like, I was a kid, like little, but I thought I was like the Queen of the Night. Like, I loved Whitney. I mean, I wore this soundtrack out, okay? And obviously, everybody else did too, because it's still the best-selling one of all time. So shout out to Nippy. So her existing bodyguard, Tony, resents Frank's presence, and that leads to them having a brawl, not like Montgomery shot to them, between the two in Rachel's kitchen. So although Frank tries to remain professional, him and Rachel became intimate. And the next day, he realizes that, it compromised his ability to protect her. So, which really hurt her feelings, right? So Rachel then just starts to like act out, and she's like, forget it. So she tries to make Frank jealous. She flirts with his former Secret Service colleague, Greg Portman, whom she meets at a Miami party. So then when her stalker places a threatening phone call, Rachel then finally gets the seriousness of the situation, and she realizes that she needs to trust Frank completely. So Frank, Rachel, her son Fletcher, her older sister Nikki, and her driver Henry, they all travel to a large lakefront cabin in West Virginia that his dad owns, okay? And Frank's father is named Herb, which I don't remember that, but like I said, I saw this when I was a little kid. So the next day, Frank rescues Fletcher from a small motorboat just before it explodes, which is really scary. So everybody, they freak out. Frank secures the house for the night. Her sister gets a little bit too tipsy and she's really upset that Fletcher, he could have been unalive in that boat exploding. And she admits to Frank that she hired the hitman to unalive Rachel because she was jealous. There's a scripture that says, anger is outrageous, but jealousy, who could stand before envy? Like, jealousy is crueler than the grave, and that's so true. If anybody has ever been jealous of you, or even if you've ever felt jealousy, it is so, and I've been on the receiving and the giving end of both. It is the worst feeling, whether somebody is jealous of you or you're jealous of someone else. It's horrible. But we all go through it as human beings. So Frank, she says that she's paid in full. She didn't know that he wasn't supposed to touch the baby. So the hitman then breaks into the house and he ends up unaliving Nikki after she spills the beans, okay? Frank, because y'all know they wasn't going to let her live after she tried to unalive Whitney Houston. Come on now. So Frank then pursues the killer throughout the woods, and he, of course, being the hero that he is, he shoots, but he misses, and the assailant escapes. So Frank learns that the stalker had been apprehended earlier that day and was in custody when Nikki was unalived. So obviously it was more than one person. So a few days after Nikki's funeral is the Academy Awards ceremony. So then Frank gives Rachel a panic button in the shape of a cross, and he immediately, to alert him of any trouble. So she's, freaking out. She runs off stage and she's angry at him for embarrassing her, which she feels is overprotective measures. She is announced the winner, of course, as Best Actress, and she comes on stage to accept the award. And it's Portman. Y'all remember him? He was a Secret Service agent that she had, got with in Miami. He recognizes that he's pointing the pow pow at Rachel. So then Frank runs on stage, all dramatic, jumps in front of Rachel, taking the bullet meant for her. And of course, he finishes the job and gets rid of Portman. So then Frank is left wounded, and Rachel calls for help while urging him to stay with her as he passes out. It was so dramatic, but this movie was everything when we were little. So Frank recovers from the shooting and, bids Rachel farewell at the airport. They're both knowing that their relationship will never work out. And as the plane takes off, she suddenly orders the planes to stop and runs out and, kisses Frank for one long, last, passionate kiss. And then she sings I Will Always Love You while is playing in the background on stage. And Frank is somewhere else, keeping a vigilant eye on his next assignment. And a minister is seen holding a cross similar to the one that he gave Rachel, and then the movie ends. So with that being said, that is my favorite Throwback Thursday movie. You guys, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite song from Whitney Houston? We miss her every day. Or your favorite movie. Of course, she did Wait and Exhale too, but I already covered that in one of my other Throwback Thursdays, so I didn't want to be redundant. But you guys, drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you later. Take care, aces. Bye. I will always love y'all.